Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. This is dedicated to individuals helping them build the successful accounting, bookkeeping, and tax businesses that they intended to have. In doing so, this show is actually dedicated to provide tips and tricks, suggestions and ideas, helpful ideas that you can actually implement in your business to improve your marketing, sales, pricing, onboarding strategies, services being provided, learning from the experts, the things that you can be doing in your business to in fact have the premier accounting firm in your area. I'm your host, president of Universal Accounting Center, Roger Connect. I've been working with accounting professionals now for more than 20 years, helping individuals actually start and build their successful businesses. And in doing so, I've made a number of friends and more importantly, help people actually accomplish their dreams. In doing so, I hope to actually share my insights with you in this and the other podcasts that we actually have. So I invite you to subscribe to and listen to the other episodes that we have. Now, I actually have a special guest today. It's someone that I've known for a number of years, Gabrielle Fontaine, and she is someone that happens to also be a graduate of Universal, which I'm sure may be mentioned, but she is the founder and manager of Bookkeeping Direct, a bookkeeping firm that has been running 100% virtual since 2003. She is an advanced certified QuickBooks Pro advisor and accredited small business consultant, as well as a sought-after speaker, author, consultant in the bookkeeping profession. Gabrielle is known for her results-focused online training programs and live webinars on topics such as workflow, pricing, marketing, cybersecurity, business growth strategies. In fact, her latest classes can actually be found at the bookkeepers.com website. Gabrielle also works with accounting technology companies to spark win-win synergy and growth that benefits the entire bookkeeping ecosystem. So, Gabrielle, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be quite fun. I've known you for a number of years, so there's a little bit of history, but why don't you go ahead and share with individuals a little bit about yourself? In fact, more importantly, go back to when it was that you were considering getting into the accounting profession and why you actually chose to do this crazy thing we do.
Well, that's a pretty funny story, only because it's been such a long time. My first business was an administrative support business and was focused in on transcription. But I also, during that time that I had that business, I took an H&R Block tax prep course where we did, that was back, this tells you how old I am. It was when we did tax returns with paper and pen.
No way. They did that? No, I'm kidding.
Yes. So I prepared tax returns by hand. But I did that kind of on the side as a seasonal profit center. So I started it because I wanted to do my own tax return because I went to a CPA and it was very expensive when I had my little business. And I was like, I can do this. So then I went and took the course and started doing tax. And when I figured out I could do it for myself, well, why wouldn't I do it for others? So there's that little art entrepreneurial spark. And so I did, but I always kept that kind of on the side. And then from there, I ended up, because then I was dealing with people who had small businesses as well, sole proprietors. They wanted help with their billing. That was the first thing that came. They wanted me to do their accounts receivable. And so I did that, had that on the side. And then later I sold the transcription business and then always kept that kind of little bookkeeping tax piece. And then I relocated to Philadelphia. And at that time, I thought, well, I should start a business again. And I decided, well, why don't I just go full in on the bookkeeping side? So that was when I became a QuickBooks Pro advisor and went and learned all that because I knew QuickBooks was, the brand name was going to get me the attention of small business owners. But I actually wanted to be a consultant. I wanted to help them with their bookkeeping that was a mess. And again, that came from doing the taxes because then you saw how messy the bookkeeping was. And I wanted to do that. But what happened was then I also knew I wanted to be 100% virtual because I had started doing that with the previous business before I sold it. And I started a video blog online and so I learned, internet marketing and started a video blog online. And I attracted a lot of business owners, got tons of business actually from that, although they wanted me to do their bookkeeping. They didn't want me to clean up their mess because when they found they had a messy books, they said, oh, well, I just need to learn this program better. So then they wanted me to teach them QuickBooks. And then when they saw what it was to do bookkeeping was more than data entry, then they were like, can you just do my bookkeeping for me? So the keep that you could take from that story for your audience is that I hear from many bookkeepers and accountants over the years that they're like, oh, I don't want to do training classes in order as a way to get new clients because I'm teaching them how to do it themselves. They're not going to want to engage me. And the absolute opposite is true. You want them to understand all the work that goes into doing the books, or if you were teaching even tax classes, so that they see how much work it is and how much knowledge you have to have. And then they go, oh, I don't want to do that. And so then they will come to you and say, hey, can you just do this for me? I got many clients that way. And then I also attracted a lot of bookkeepers who wanted to learn how to work online. And of course, as part of me deciding that I was going to, start this business once I had moved to Philadelphia, decided I was going to do that, I did do the universal accounting because I knew bookkeeping already, but I wanted to brush up. And that was the reason that I got the professional bookkeeper designation. And then many years later, I went and got the consultant designation as well, the small business consultant. But I, just kind of built one piece upon another. So I guess another tip that you could pull from that is if any of your listeners are relatively new in their practice, and I do see this all the time for accountants and bookkeepers, it seems to be universal and it doesn't matter how long they've been in business, that it's lack of confidence will hold us back. But the way you overcome that is you just focus in on one progress step at a time. And over time, it's like bricks. You build it and it becomes stronger and stronger. And then look back and see how far you've come. And you'll realize, yes, I am an absolute professional. I know my skill really well. And I can do for clients what they cannot do for themselves. So what I get paid is worth the money that they are paying me. So just some lessons I've learned over the years.
You've shared a lot in that. And there's a number of things I'd like to actually go back and kind of address. So first of all, I love the video blog point. There's a great thing when you can actually position yourself as an expert for the business community to see that you're someone they can be leaning on and basically drawn to. And so that was an excellent talking point because I think so many people can emulate that as they're looking at how they maybe want to niche or actually give back to the business community and so forth. So that's a good point. The second thing is you spoke very well of the QuickBooks seminars. We've for decades been doing those, and I agree with you. They're very, very effective. One of the things that you mentioned that's very, very important to at least highlight is that the business owners, they're entrepreneurial in nature anyway. And so to appeal to their interest to come to this course, this class, this training, and we're going to show you how to set up and manage and do your books, they're drawn to that idea. But you're right, at the event itself, they start to realize this is much more complicated than they expected. And at the end, they see you as the expert and ultimately realize, you know what, I got into business to run my business, not do books. So maybe this is something we need to actually delegate. By the way, and they just as an aside say, hey, is this actually something you could do for me? I realize I understand it a lot better now, but honestly, I don't think this is anything I want to do. And so all of a sudden you're acquiring then a client, whether it be a client initially to help them set it up, I don't know, but initially it may just be that desire to get things organized and so forth, but it ultimately becomes this ongoing client relationship. So I think your point to that is hugely important and something people can always consider doing because they are effective. Now, in this COVID situation, doing live events is obviously something in question, so that day may return. But easily you can be doing this online as well and doing remote trainings and the Zoom type things where you're sharing your screen. So definitely some potential there. But then the next thing is you talked about confidence. And I really wanted to try and drive a little bit deeper into this. So many people, I think, are reluctant to move forward, whether it's starting their own business or offering new services or maybe getting into particular industries or niches because of a lack of confidence. And you spoke of one of the ways that you went about getting confidence, and it was just kind of going in and recertifying your skill sets. It was the professional bookkeeper program you mentioned. And then later it was becoming a small business consultant. And it was each of those steps, I think, that were the confirmation to your own self. I have something I can do and be an expert at. So I'm just curious, how did that change your confidence speaking to potential customers as you were in that process of now acquiring them and providing these services? How do you think your demeanor changed?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because for me, it just meant that I knew that I didn't have holes in my knowledge and that I could truly listen to the potential client to see what their issues were and then make recommendations for what I could do for them to help them reach their goals. But I wasn't so worried about them asking me a question that I didn't know and so forth, because I knew that I had, gone through the training, I had passed the tests, But the interesting point on this, because I get asked this so much, actually, I get asked many accountants who want to expand their bookkeeping side that they'll be like, well, I'm an accountant and, I don't feel like I can do bookkeeping, which always surprises me. And it's a confidence issue. They can do it. Now, they may need to fill in some of their nitty gritty knowledge because I realize that sometimes they may not. They're used to looking at the top level of things as opposed to being in the weeds like the bookkeepers. But that it's a confidence issue only because they're telling themselves that they can't do it. You always have to look at it from the client's standpoint. The client does not have a clue about the bookkeeping. So to me, the certifications, yes, it helps with the confidence, but you don't have to worry, or at least I haven't had this issue ever. And I've been in business from my first business since 1990. I'm that old. I have never had a client ask me if I had certifications or what was my experience. I never was asked that. And it's because I believe, because of what you just said, Roger, that I must have come across as though I knew what I was talking about. So they never even questioned it. But the reason I could do that for myself was because I did go get the credentials to be able to feel like I did know what I needed to do in order to support clients. Because I'm not one that likes to just fake it, like totally, if the client's going to be harmed by my lack of knowledge. In fact, I'll tell you a little quick story that I had where I learned this same lesson, and it was surrounding taxes. That I had several tax clients, and you know that usually once you have a tax client, you have them for a long time because they don't go anywhere. Well, I had clients that had rental properties and so forth, and they had sold some, they had some forgiveness of loans, and it was beyond my tax prep knowledge. And I knew it. So that when they had that year where they had all those things happening that were far more complicated than what I was used to doing for them, I told them, I said, this is a lot more complicated. I don't know how to handle these situations. I'm like, you really should be going to a CPA to have this done, because I'm not a CPA. I was a, tax preparer, but not a CPA. And they were like, no, we want you to do it. Please, we don't mind. Just, find out, do the research, and we trust you. We want you to take care of us. And that blew my mind, because I thought, wow, they trust me enough when I tell them I don't know how to handle this, that they knew that I would go find out how to handle it. So from there, I guess a lesson that I learned was to also be transparent with clients. Don't tell them that you can deliver on, and this goes against a lot of entrepreneurial mindset, I know, that I don't tell them that I can deliver something unless I believe that I can at least learn how to do it well. And I find that if I level with them to let them know my situation, it actually increases the trust, as opposed to promising them something when I have no clue, and they might somehow pick up maybe a nonverbal piece of my winging it, and they may recognize that, and that then hurts the trust. Because I believe that having an accounting practice, it's a relationship business. It's all about trust. And that is the big value to the client, which then helps them feel protected by you. And that helps them not have price sensitivity. So, you see how it's all connected. But as far as the confidence, which is the question that got us on this, yes, a certification, it starts with our own confidence. And if we feel that we're missing some pieces, then we definitely need to get the education so that we can be confident and truly deliver for our clients.
I love what you're saying. There are two specific things that you've brought up that I believe are huge that we need to discuss and maybe at least dive a little bit deeper into. One, it's this last point that you were just speaking of, which is the confidence. There are so often times in various chat groups or social settings that there are questions by accounting professionals of what licensing or what training, what certifications do I need to be able to offer bookkeeping or accounting or tax services. And what's fascinating to me is it's almost as if they're expecting there to be some licensure that takes place, like a state issuing a cosmetology license or a commercial driver's license, a CDL. This isn't that type of profession. Once you have your business license, you basically can go out and offer these types of services. The certifications that we're discussing and alluding to aren't for the client. They're not for the state. What they are is for us. It's for the confidence. And so if you want to be the expert person offering premier, let's say, bookkeeping services, it's the bookkeeping training that fills in the gaps like you were describing earlier to give you the confidence to know that you, in fact, have a third party that's designating you as having a certain skill set. It's not so much for the client. The designation may help one or two here or there, but the designation is a confidence builder to you that you, in fact, can and do offer quality services because you've been properly trained and certified to do so. So really, I don't think the question is an issue of whether or not you need your bachelor's degree, 10 years experience, and certain designations, becoming a CPA, EA, PB, CPB. I mean, the list can go on and on. The question is whether or not you have the confidence to look the business owner in the eye and say, like you just said a moment ago, I can take care of this particular need that you have, and you can pay me for this service. That's, I think, a big deal. And then the second thing that you also illustrated is that this, at the end of the day, is a people business. It's not so much what you know. At the end of the day, it's who you know and the trust that you have from your clients as to whether or not you're going to be a successful business. And so those two elements, I think, are so important, and I appreciate you mentioning those. Are there any final thoughts that you'd have either on the confidence or the let's say the personal nature of the business?
No, I think, well, the personal nature of the business, something that's a core piece, and it overlaps a little bit with what we were talking about, because as you were speaking, it reminds me that getting the education to support the confidence also somewhat goes to our ethics as providers of this vital service to small businesses.
Yes.
Because I've also, spoken with, because I've been around for so long, spoken with so many who want to start a business, but they are clearly far from qualified and need a lot of education.
Yeah.
They might be like, oh yeah, I used to do QuickBooks. I used to do the reconciliations. So I want to start a bookkeeping business. And you're like, really? So I will go the other opposite and say, really, you want to be responsible for the financial well-being of several businesses. Do you feel up to that challenge? So a flip side of it is more an ethical thing, that we need to really be taking care of our clients. And that serves us as well, because often we want to get the clients because we want the income, the cash flow to come in. We're trying to build our business, but it's a relationship business and a reputation-based business too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that if we need to actually deliver on our promises to our clients, and a driver for that is going to be the ethics that we care about our clients' well-being. And that also is going to drive us to continue to educate ourselves and continue to upgrade our skills, because things are always changing. So we need to be looking out for our clients. So I think a vital ingredient in order to have that truly loyal and sticking relationship with our clients is that we have to care about their well-being, not just about how much they're going to pay us.
Good point. One of the things that I would relate to what you just shared is there's a difference between confidence and competence. Competence is the second element that I always emphasize because you can have the confidence to look a business owner in the eyes and say, I know what you need and I can do it and I'm the right one for it. But when you leave that conversation, do you in fact have the ability, the competence to now do the work? And it's not just doing it accurately. There is obviously within accounting the need to be precise, but at the same time, it is efficiently. Because at the end of the day, if you take with, like you were describing earlier, the tax situation where the client was very trusting of your ability to provide that tax expertise, and you knew that you needed to go study and learn, and they were understanding of your needing to go do that, well, that's fine. But at the end of the day, if it took you 10 hours to do a job that should have taken an hour, you're not going to be profitable because of the fees you're charging to do the work are going to be more commensurate for the hour work, not the 10 hours that it ended up taking you. So you've got to be able to work efficiently and competently. And that competence is then going to allow you to then be profitable. So I think you're really addressing the two key elements that are essential for someone to do this effectively for themselves and be profitable, but also for the client and make sure they're getting quality work.
Yes. Yes, I agree. And that leads to one of my key teaching points, but it's because, and I'm passionate about it because it's what I live, because it basically saved my business many years ago. And that is the principle that's originally from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People of win-win or no deal. Mm-hmm. So it needs to truly be a balance. And when it's not, there's going to be friction and problems. And that goes to client experience as well. So what I learned was, as a service provider, and I see so many of us doing this, is that we're trying to serve the client. We're trying to help the client. We want the client to be happy, right? So then we go overboard mm-hmm. and we play it as lose for us, win for the client. And we do that so that we say, oh, but that's because they'll appreciate me later and it will be fine. But when we always do that, what happens is it'll kill our profitability, what you just said. So, and our efficiency will get thrown off as well. So we'll end up working our brains out for peanuts. And yes. That's not right.
That's right.
So when you learn to play win-win, because then there's the other side too. If people, all they want to do is build a huge, empire, and they're just trying to suck in as many clients and they're losing just as many out the back because all they care about is making money and duping the client into paying the most money possible. There are some around that are like that too. They're playing win for me and I could give a flying leap about you to the client, mm-hmm. Just long as I can get you to give me your money. That's off balance too. And obviously that's not going to last. It's eventually going to come back and bite you. So when I learned that it's this win-win balance, that is the sweet spot. That's going to make it so that the relationship is preserved, the value is there, we can get more efficient, effective, competent, all of it. It's just like an upward spiral of how to build a really successful practice.
I love that. Who you're quoting there is Stephen Covey, and he does a great
yes.
job in that book. And then the other that is similar to what you're sharing is in the book In the Black by Alan Bostrom, where we speak of a good deal is a good deal if it's a good deal for both parties. And so if it is, then you're right. I think you've got this equitable relationship with your clients that you're going to retain. And because this is a people business, based on referrals so often, you're going to end up getting good referrals from people who appreciate the services you're providing. So I like that element of your business model. Now, here's something that's interesting. It's something that you shared earlier. You started with your business initially offering tax services. That's kind of what drew you into the profession, introducing you through the tax training that you attended, and then it evolved into tax services. But you then, when you went to Philadelphia, starting your bookkeeping business, you've evolved to the point that you no longer offer tax services. Now Correct. You're exclusively focused on bookkeeping services. What drew you to kind of hone in and really get excited about and passionate for bookkeeping services?
Well, it took me a few years to figure out where that passion was, because it's actually not the bookkeeping itself. As much as I like a puzzle and I like things to, be clean, like most bookkeepers do, like it's a sense of accomplishment when the books are clean, they're done, they look good, they're ready for taxes, right? If it's the end of the year. But it's actually the business side of things. I love seeing the inner workings of a business and noticing the trends and seeing, what makes it work, what doesn't, all the different positioning maybe that the business owner is doing, or even the marketing that they're doing and what's working and what's not. So it's basically the game of business that I love. And in the position of a bookkeeper, I think even more so than a CPA, a bookkeeper has the ability to really know what's going on in a business, and it naturally lends itself to going in that advisory direction as well, which was why I ended up going towards the small business consultant designation, because I wanted to really go to that next step of helping the clients run their business more effectively and efficiently. And so it's really the game of business that got me into it. Because remember, initially I wanted to just do the consulting. I got sucked into the bookkeeping because I was doing teaching, because that was what the clients were asking for. And it's funny, it's a circle. So I think those three things go together, that the bookkeeping, consulting, and teaching all go together. And of course, that definitely applies even if you had a tax practice. That same three elements really do serve each other. And it's kind of whichever you want to emphasize on. Right now in my business, I'm much more going towards the consulting, because I do a lot of consulting as well. But I'm also at the point where I'm trying to scale the bookkeeping business, but I'm getting myself out of the actual bookkeeping.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I think is important to bring up that you're kind of addressing, that I'd like to dive a little deeper into, is that the natural evolution that I see many accountants, bookkeepers, tax preparers going into is, in fact, business coaching. And the evolution of that is, I think, twofold. One is experience. After they've been working with business owners for a number of years, they get to a point where they feel like they can actually give back and maybe help their clients do so much more than just look at the financial reports. There's another level there. But the second thing is I believe that with the introduction of software and now artificial intelligence, AI, there's this push for a number of years where when you attend accounting conferences, there's always this talk of bookkeeping, accounting professionals, we need to become more advisory in the services that we're offering, more business consulting or coaching in what it is we do with our clients to bring added value, an additional revenue stream, but more importantly, remain relevant so that they see value in the accounting services that we're providing. So as you've seen the introduction of new AIs and different challenges that the bookkeeper may see on the horizon, you've naturally kind of moved into the coaching. Do you see AI as a threat, or is it something that you're embracing and excited about? What do you see about the future in accounting and bookkeeping?
I view AI and all of the tech advancements as a benefit to us, because when we look at one of the biggest reasons that we've been hearing for many years to go towards advisory is because the thought is that the compliance work will be done by machines. Yes and no. The AI has surprised me, because I thought, well, humans are irrational, and especially on the bookkeeping side. If you've done bookkeeping for any length of time, you will find that the business owners often do nothing the same way twice, and you need a human to actually interpret what's going on. However, AI has become very sophisticated and can even figure out some of the irrational behaviors of the humans. So I don't see it as a threat, because when you look at it from, again, the client standpoint, the compliance work is a necessary evil. The bookkeeping has to be done. The taxes have to be done. Just like, and I always compare it to going to the dentist. Nobody goes, yay, I'm going to the dentist to have my teeth cleaned, or yay, I have to go get a root canal because I didn't take care of my teeth, right? Nobody does that, but they do it because it's necessary. It gets to, if they're doing the cleanings, they're doing the maintaining so that they don't have big problems. That's like the bookkeeping, keeping the bookkeeping up to date and the taxes up to date. If they neglect it and then they have consequences for that, like not doing their bookkeeping or having messed up books and ignoring it or not filing their taxes when they were supposed to, that's like the root canal. We want to change the emotional reaction of our clients for working with us. We can add with the advisory level because entrepreneurs are more present and future focused, whereas bookkeeping and taxes are in the past. It's what's already happened, historians. So if we can shift to providing clients what they need right now with advice and helping them look to the future to how they can reach their goals more quickly financially, they are going to love that. It will grow in their trust. Now they will naturally start coming to us for help. And guess what? They pay a lot more money for that too. So it's in our own best interest and for the clients, win-win, to be pursuing that. But the AI helps us because if it is getting more and more efficient and quick and accurate, more accurate even than the humans, to get the compliance work done, that frees us, in theory, to go do more of the advisory. Now, the reality is, and especially on the tax side, we have heard that for years too. Oh, it's going to free you up. But most of us are still really busy with all the compliance. Well, that's because things keep changing all the time. So the compliance is never going to go away. I don't feel threatened by the AI. I'd rather embrace it and help it make my business much more efficient so that I can do the high value work with the clients.
I love it. Thank you so much for that, because I couldn't agree more with you. I'm not threatened by the AI. In fact, I'm very excited about it. And I'm just going to give I'm going to try and be very quick reason why. If you go back over the evolution of accounting, where we introduced computers into the profession, taking us away from the green visor and the armband and sitting down and writing in journals and ledgers, the computer was obviously then able to simplify the process. If you needed to produce a financial report, say 70 years ago, it would have taken you a few days to compile a month-end report. Today, it's basically you go into the software and you select the date range and you hit submit, and boom, out comes the report instantaneously, and you can print it within seconds, literally within 60 seconds, have in front of you that month end. So what it did is it allowed us as accounting professionals to now really offer quality services to the small business owners. When software came on the scene, all of a sudden what it did is it simplified our ability to do the work, because accounting still is the language of business. And here's to my point. In the medical profession, the AI is becoming so good that it actually better reads X-ray reports and more accurately diagnoses symptoms for the actual cause to determine what it is that's ailing the patient, better than an actual doctor. It has it's able to access so much more information and deduce then what it is that's causing the problem, better than a doctor. But the problem is the computer does not have the bedside manner. It doesn't have the ability to communicate that information to the patient in a way that is helpful and reassuring and optimistic, or at least help them actually address the situation at hand. Likewise, in accounting, what we're doing as accounting professionals is accounting still is the language of business. It's still numbers. And for many business owners, the numbers are elusive. And what we are is we're that interpreter, that translator. So as much as AI comes on the scene and simplifies or helps in preparing the financials and the compliancy work, I still feel that there's going to continue to need to be this accountant that actually is the intermediary between the information and its application or implementation with the business owner. And so our role as accounting professionals is still very much relevant. It's just freeing up our time from the transactional recording and actual data entry, and opening up the opportunity for us to embrace now this business advisory or coaching services that we can bring to the table. Because what the business owner needs is our perspective. They're looking for our insights that we have, because we're not in the day-to-day operations of the business like they are. They want our perspective on the numbers to see what are they maybe missing that they need to be maybe concerned about in their business. So how you described that a moment ago was spot on. This is something we should be embracing. Just like QuickBooks, if there's an AI, a new program, we need to actually learn about it as accounting professionals, become experts at it so that we're the go-to people to help our clients implement the technologies, but we're still going to be the connection point for that experience. And that's where I think the accounting profession is going in the coming years. We're still relevant. We're still important. We're still going to be needed. We're still going to be paid for our services. So you just nailed that. That was so well said there, Gabrielle. So here's my question for you now. We've talked about the future. We've talked about what you're doing in your past. Give me a story of where you feel as an accounting professional, you actually made a difference for your client, where you felt that with your working with them, you were able to maybe help them avert a situation or maybe accomplish something that they didn't feel possible.
That was a lot of choices. The one that came to mind immediately, and it makes me happy because I know the history of this. I've had this client since 2014, I believe. That when I first got a client, small business client, and my bookkeeping practice specializes mostly in consultants, so I deal mostly with consultants. I have others, but they're mostly consultants. And when I first got her, she was kind of like a price shopper type, and wants the most bang for her buck kind of thing. And that it fits her profile, that she's pretty much value conscious. I'll put it that way, because I wouldn't say she's a cheapskate, but she's value conscious. And I took her on because her situation was when she was on a desktop program, not QuickBooks. She was on a desktop program, but she wasn't ready to switch. And I was willing to experiment with that market to see, because I knew there were a lot of small businesses that were using it. So I thought, but it's not appropriate software. And I thought, okay, well, let's try this and see. So I call her my guinea pig client, because I always try the new tech on her now. So anyway, with this client, I got her over time. She saw how clunky it was doing things the way she was trying to do them. I got her to go to QuickBooks Online, and she was like a duck to water in working with that. So that was a big accomplishment. And she still, to this day, will say that was the best thing she did, with as far as her record keeping and so forth. But just recently, this past week, she was, because interest rates were so low, it's actually started in January, this whole scenario she's been going through, but she was trying to refinance a loan because of the rates were supposed to be so good, but she already had a good rate. Well, from my perspective, from what I could see, is she got some kind of shyster type lending company that was really, they were doing making her jump a lot of hoops that were not especially necessary, but they had her locked in on a rate. And then they kept getting to the end of it because they obviously were having internal issues in processing. Who knows? I know it's a crazy market. But then they finally came back to her and they had changed the rate. They changed everything about it. So it was only going to be a modest benefit. So she wanted me twice. We actually had several meetings on this. She wanted my perspective. She wanted to lay it all out, exactly what you said. They depend on us for our analytical skills, and they feel like we have their back. So we went through it, and I basically said to her, and she's a creative person, so she's okay with the numbers, but she couldn't decide which way to go with it. And so I looked at it and I said, well, really, it depends on how you feel about this, because it's only a modest financial benefit over a long period of time. So, and I helped her analyze that, and she went, modest benefit, that's what I need. So she went back. The way the story ends is then they switched it up again on her. They kept making changes to what it was, what the offer was. And so she has finally decided, she said that with confidence, she could tell them no, because this was not a good deal. And I love the expression, it made me laugh, that she told them, blind copied me on the email. She told them that the juice isn't worth the squeeze. And I just was like, I love that expression, but it was perfect. But I gave the client confidence in knowing what was a good situation and what wasn't a good situation when it was really pretty fuzzy for her, and helped her even see it's not just about the dollars and cents. It was more about how it was going to affect her in how she felt in running her business. So that, to me, to others might think like, okay, that's not such a big deal. But to me, because of the real benefit to her, giving her confidence and helping her see that she does know how to make these kinds of decisions well, was a big win.
When you have conversations with your clients where they're not asking about the financials, but they come to you as that trusted advisor to say, I've got something else I need your input on. And they put before you something like you shared, where it's a business situation, a decision that needs to be made, and they just need to talk it through with someone. They need some perspective. Is there something here I'm missing? When you have that conversation, that meeting with your clients, you've actually crossed into a whole new relationship, because it's no longer about the financial reports or the numbers. They see you as that trusted advisor. You now have a lifelong client because they appreciate the perspective you're bringing to the business decisions they're making. So I think that was an excellent illustration of the types of relationships we can eventually have with our clients. So that was well said. Gabrielle, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to summarize what we've shared. I've neglected to bring up our sponsor, so I'm going to mention our sponsor here in a moment. And then I'm going to ask for a closing thought, just a final thought that you'd like to share with everyone. So let me just kind of recap a few of the highlights that I feel that are very important here. And it's first and foremost that confidence is necessary to be able to do this business. You need to do what's needed for you to get the confidence, the certifications, the training, so that you can look a business owner in the eye and confidently offer the services. But it needs to be complemented by competence, the ability to offer now ethically quality services. And in doing this efficiently, you can then be profitable. But those two key elements are so key to be successful at this. And then we talked about this being a people business. Obviously, we're working with business owners, and they are people. And what they're looking for is more than just accurate numbers. They're looking for perspectives and insights. They want to ask the question, therefore what? And we need to be prepared to be able to ask additional questions to help them think things through and appropriately determine for themselves what the next course of action is for their own business. The next thing that I think is very, very important is this discussion we had about AI and the future of accounting and bookkeeping. We just need to embrace the new technologies and realize that although they may be presented oftentimes as benefits to the business owners, to the entrepreneurs, oftentimes if we embrace them, we can become the experts for those platforms and actually be the go-between and maybe use them as assistants to our business model and actually still keep the clients offering quality services, where our services now are more advisory and coaching in nature. And then the last thing I'd like to bring up is that Gabrielle did a great job of explaining that this can be fun, exciting. I think just her passion and enthusiasm for the business just shows how exciting this can be when you actually embrace this profession and really look at what you can do for business owners and work with your clients. So that's that. Let me just also mention our sponsor just before I forget it. It's Universal Accounting Center. We've got basically two things that I want to make mention of. Obviously, we had earlier Gabrielle mention the professional bookkeeper program. So in the episode description of the podcast, you can go there and see what information you can have as to how you also can become a certified professional bookkeeper to offer quality accounting services to small businesses. And then the second happens to be an offer to get a free copy of the book In the Black. It was mentioned earlier in our discussion. It's actually a book that has 9 principles to make your business profitable. This book is actually a must-have as you actually transition from not only working on your business, but also helping your clients implement these same 9 principles in their companies to make their companies be in the black. So with that in mind, go to the episode description and get a free copy of the book In the Black and learn what more you can do to become a certified professional bookkeeper. Now, with that, what final thoughts might you have for us here today?
Well, one thought is that we talked a lot about, being competent and doing the work well and building our confidence. But then also we talked about embracing tech and being able to go to the higher level advisory type services. A little trick that I can tell you, if you're one that has been bumping your head trying to figure out how do I make that transition to the advisory services, here's the easiest way to do it. Is go to your existing clients, and when you have your next meeting, whether it's presenting their financials or for whatever reason, working with them for their taxes or after the fact tax planning, is just ask them how they're doing and what's going on in their business right now. Just be interested in what their life is like in their business and listen. That's all you have to do. Because when you start showing that you care about them, they will relax and they will start talking more to you because most of them don't have anybody to talk to. So that's my tip.
Excellent tip. The trick to offering great coaching services is asking the right questions. That is the premier thing. The second is holding them accountable. So I appreciate you actually throwing that in as a final thought there. So let me just wrap things up and encourage you to not only subscribe to this podcast, but listen to the other episodes that we have where we've interviewed and spoken with other experts as to things that you can be doing to work on your business and in fact build the premier accounting firm. So remember this, accounting success is universal. So for more information on how you can apply these principles and others in your business, visit us at universalaccountingschool.com or give us a phone call at 801-265-3777. Take care, have a great day, and be safe out there, everyone.